Good morning, everyone. So I'm joined here today with Georgina Goddard from Brooklet Springs Chickens, and talking today. Our primary reason to get together was to talk about how to sex baby chickens and day-old chickens, how to differentiate. But I really wanted to get Georgina on, not only because she knows the answer to that one, but I think she's got a great business case, which it's really worth examining and looking at her journey. Because I've watched her business grow personally as a customer for the last few years, and I think there's a lot I'm intrigued to find out. So, welcome, Georgina. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. So we started farming just on almost 4 years ago. Our plan was to become market gardeners, and our first step in becoming farmers was to find a market. We went to the local farmers markets and realised that our particular area was flooded with market gardeners, and that we wouldn't actually be able to sell or get into, our foot in the door. So we ended up looking at other things, and chicken just happened to be one of many. Fast forward 4 years on, and we've gone from growing 30 chickens as a trial to we now bring in 1,390 day-olds every 3 weeks. So it's gone kind of exponential growth for us. There's still a lot more room for us to grow the business further, but we're now at some kind of teething challenges of becoming a bigger business, or becoming a more sustainable business, I guess.
And just give us a quick snapshot for everyone listening. What the products you're selling? Drumsticks, live poultry. You're selling meat basically, and in what form do you sell it?
Yep. So we attend 2 farmers markets a week, and then we are a direct-to-consumer business. Up until the start of this year, the model was a little bit different, but from the start of this year moving forward, we're focusing on a direct-to-consumer. So we sell to people, we don't sell to wholesalers, and there's a big reason for that.
What's that reason, out of interest?
Financial. So chicken is an expensive thing to grow. It's an expensive thing to process. At the scale that we're at, even processing is horrendously expensive. So our economies of scale aren't there. And to be able to give a restaurant 30% off, we just can't afford to do that and be a sustainable business. So end of last year, we did a bit of an analysis on how we were going. And we discovered that the whole wholesale business side of what we were doing was causing us to not be able to, it was really bringing us down financially. So we ended up...
A lot of effort, no profit, yeah?
Completely, yeah. Really good if you've got lots of product, but we're at a point where we have enough customers. Well, not enough customers, but we had, our foot in the door and our name and on the cards of restaurants and Instagram people and lots of, our marketing was established. Yep. So we were fortunate enough to stop our wholesale, pause our wholesale while we figured out how to become, better at.
Cool. I'll take you back a step because I'm intrigued by this. You're an architect, I think, aren't you? Is that right? Yeah. So what's your why? What did you get into? What drew you into farming, and what got you into this space? Because it's a big leap from a CAD, being a CAD monkey like my wife, to my wife's an architect also, to doing what you're doing. What's the difference? What got you this way?
So my partner and I worked together for many years. He's a builder and I'm an architect. We had a baby is the short answer. So I was working really long hours and he was working really long hours, and life was really stressful. We were like, we're not seeing each other. Something needs to change. So we actually bought the farm to spend more time together, I guess. On the backstory to that, I'd developed some food allergies. So I was am allergic to wheat and gluten and nightshades, and that got me reading labels. So that sparked my interest in becoming, asking questions like, okay, what does organic mean? Does organic mean this? Or what does pasture raised mean? Or what does grass fed mean? And that started my journey on to researching the industry more, and then discovering that I wasn't actually happy with what was available. And so that was like, can we farm it ourselves? So that was the seed, I guess, was the food allergies, and then the reading of the start of the discovery.
You got a great on the front of your market stand thing I love is that you've got a great term. You've sort of, I don't know if you've borrowed or created it, but can you talk us through that way you describe your process?
Yeah, so we call it the Ethicurean farmer.
Ethicurean,
and that was,
love it. Yeah.
At the very start, I was like, well, we want to produce food ethically. That's, why I don't want to have sheds. I don't want to have the smell. I don't want to have everything that goes along with that. Can we just be simple about it at a scale that's appropriate? And then I also really love food. So it's all about kind of the ethics of growing things, animals out in their environment, and then also being able to grow them in a way so that they make this amazing produce at the end. So the product that you get is, so it's both sides of the story.
Well, I could say as a regular customer, it's bloody good products. It's amazing. Like, there's really no comparison. I mean, genuinely, there's no comparison at all. Eating one of your chickens versus a hot chicken from Coles or anything. It's just completely different products. It really is. So, is that the reason? What are the big drivers for your business? Is it because of the quality? Do you think, is that what's driven it, or what are the things that have worked to make this grow so quickly for you, or so well?
I mean, I come from so in architecture, in my previous life, I was like, I want to make a difference. So I was in hospital and aged care, and I was like, I want to make a difference to people's lives. And I can do that through, developing their spaces when they're unwell. And, and that translated into this business format was, we can put our whole life effort into something. Why don't we put it into something that's really going to make a difference? So that's the driver, is that I want to make change in the industry. And we're not going to be able to do that unless we have all of these other tools in order to drive the business and our industry. It's going to be safety in numbers. So all of you guys out there, we need more farmers, and we need more people at small scale in order to drive change. And I really think that there's an opportunity there. No one's doing it, and there should be. Like,
there was no competition, was there, in this space really for you? Did you
there still is no. Yeah. Well, there is every now and again. Small producers will come through, and that's great. But they find out that it's actually really long hours, which is no different to any other industry. You be a professional, you work 70, 80, 90 hours a week. If you do your job well, it's not a 38-hour week. If you want, it's just the difference between putting that into developing, one idea or another. It's not, I don't think, and if you're not made for that sort of work, you go into farming because you want to have happy hour at 3 o'clock every afternoon. It's not for you. Sorry. Like, go work for someone else. That's and let them have it. Yeah.
So it's a combination of, you got quality and ethics behind it, and a real work ethic there. Great quality produce, but there's also, you have recognised that there is a gap in the market, and this, so if you've hit that. Who's your ideal customer here? Who is your avatar customer? Do you have an idea? Who's buying your products? Is it, because it's not the cheapest product on the market. Obviously, you can buy a much cheaper chicken. So who's spending the money to buy it?
It's so the first couple of years of our business, we did a home delivery service. between a 2-hour radius of the farm. So we sort of drew a map and went, if you're in this group, then we will deliver to your home. And we took our cool truck around, and I was surprised that we had people that were up in the sunny hills of Byron Bay in the McMansions, which was beautiful. But we also had people who were single mums, you know, trying to living in single unit houses in areas that are not, you know, with broken cars out the front of the house. And it's like, I'm taking this produce that we make because it has a certain, you know, the whole Ethicurean thing, they're feeding it to their family because it's nutritious and because it's all of those other things that are, so there's kind of two sides. There's a group of people that we service who, going back to what do we sell? So we break down 70% of our cuts. So we process 1,000 chickens. We'll break down 700 of them and we'll leave 300 whole as the split. Out of that, we've got a few cuts that caters for the people who, you know, they're the thigh fillets and the tenderloins. They're the smallest, little daintiest things that you'd have to do literally nothing to get them to be, you know, a meal. That caters for a certain demographic. And then on the other side, we do like a $20 brother kit, which is frames and feet and wings. And it's all about making hearty food. It's $20 and it's at least 6 meals. So it's kind of, we like to think that we're, the customer is not who I thought it would be. I didn't think, I was like, who's going to buy a chicken for $40? That was my, at the very start, it was who's going to buy a chicken for $25 because it was, we need to grow these, you know, 1.2 kilo chickens and it's going to, so we've had to, I think we shaped the business to cater for a number of different people, but it's kind of, those are the two ends of the spectrum and then everyone in between.
That's really interesting, isn't it? Yeah. Tell us, just so everyone's clear, the way you grow these things, the difference. You're not factory farming. They're not in sheds. Tell us just it's a regenerative way of producing chickens. Can you talk us roughly through how you do that?
So we get the chickens as a day old. We don't hatch. The hatchery process is a completely different, very technical. That's a whole business in itself. So we get the chickens as a day old and they hang out in a brooder, which is a shipping container with heating and ventilation that we can control, doors, windows, lights, whatever. They hang out in the brooder for about 2 weeks in summer, 3 weeks in winter until they're fully feathered. So that's like mother hen is in the shipping container. Once they get to 3 weeks old, they go out into what we call a tractor, which is, at the very start, we Googled mobile chicken house or chicken pen. And we got onto a guy called John Siskovich. I can send you an email with him. He builds an outdoor tent with a tarp over the top and chicken wire all around. It's a floorless coop that you move along every day. In a commercial environment, the chickens would reach table weight at about 31 to 35 days, which is just on 4 weeks.
35 days.
Yeah.
Wow. It's just.
And these chickens are, we use the same chickens. 99.9999% of chicken in the world is that is eaten is the Cobros variety. Or a variation of that breed. It's designed to grow really quickly. So we use the same genetics. It's not genetically modified. It's just crossbred, selectively crossbred since the 70s. So we could potentially leave them in the shipping container and adjust their feed and water and leave the lights on all the time and make them eat and drink a lot and get them to that table weight at 35 days. We don't. We move them out onto the field and they take about 9 weeks to grow. So it's a different, because of that, you get a more denser, you get a more denser flesh, you get a different fat profile. So you get intramuscular fat that you don't normally get in something that's raised in a shed. Our leg meat is actually a lot darker and a lot stronger. It's a stronger flavour because it's 3 weeks older than, or 4 weeks older than the commercial variety of the same size and weight.
Yep.
Yeah, and
they're healthier too because they're eating grass and they're moving on fresh grass every day, right? So they're getting omega-3s and they're a healthier fat profile. Is that it?
Yeah, so we often do feed conversions. So we produced 1,000 chickens and they weighed 2 ton. And then chicken is amazing because the industry is huge. There are lots of tables and ways to work out percentages of recovery. So I can go, well, I produce this amount of chicken and I put in this amount of food, so therefore my feed conversion is this. It's kind of maths. Put my architect's hat on and get out spreadsheets. And they get about 27% of their diet through the grass. We don't give it to them. So they magic it up. And that's the beauty of doing. So we put them on an everyday move. We give them a new patch of grass, which is a square. They get about 3 or 4 birds per square metre. So it's to give you an idea of scale. And they actually eat the grass and eat the bugs, and they eat about 27% of their diet, which is amazing. Because then I don't have to feed them that $5 worth of $5 per chicken of
like it,
supplemental feed.
Awesome. All right. All right. Well, look, I'm gonna open to look. Rebecca's here Beck's on our call today, and Joy and Danny, but Beck in particular has got some questions. She's interested in getting into this space.
Great.
Being on island, one of the big things is getting day olds and growing and getting baby chicks, either getting them to the island, importing them. And we have some questions on that. So hence the chicken sexing question, which we'll go to maybe first. But also the other thing we need to consider, Beck, just to load your questions up, is the processing considerations. How do we abattoirs and processing? So Beck, I'll hand over to you, and Joy and Danny, if you've got other questions, please sing out for Georgina.
Awesome. Hi, Georgina. Thank you so much for coming on today. Just to explain where I'm coming from, I've just started a pasture-fed egg business here on the island. Well, when I say started, somebody else was running it and they were closing down. I approached them and said, hey, I see you've got a chicken caravan. I'd love to buy it from you. And they said, oh, we'll either sell everything or nothing. So that's 2 chicken caravans, all the chickens, breeding equipment, incubators, everything like that. So I went from, I'll have 1 caravan, and I was looking at same sort of thing as you, like a market garden, rotational grazing, get some cows in, maybe some pigs, and then I kind of suddenly became an egg farmer. Since then, another egg producer on the island has gone, can you take my birds? So I've now got 180 18-month-old birds. So, and the only way, because of biosecurity, the only way to get new chickens onto the island is to fly them over as day olds. So I don't have the option of getting point of lay chickens or anything like that. I've now got incubators, brood boxes. I've just got some sheds with runs similar to what you've got, except a bit harder to move. So I'm looking at breeding my own. but realizing that when I do that, I'm not going to get just layers. And so there's going to, yeah. So I'm now in the stage of working out, trying to find a market for the meat, but knowing that I'm wanting to get my breeds for eggs basically, and I'm not wanting to get into the meat market as such, but my males will be a byproduct, if you like. So the biggest issues here are getting feed on the island. Shipping is difficult at the moment. The main ship that was coming stopped coming, and so it's a real issue as to whether we can get feed. And everything goes from Australia via New Zealand to get here. So it takes 2 months to get here. And by the time it does, that's 2 months of your shelf life of your feed gone. And yeah, so you can see why the other people were wanting to get out of it, and we're really glad that I came along.
Sure.
So I'm a backyard chicken person. Like, I've had chickens for 20 years, but I've never mated them. I've never bred them. I've never raised them. And my biggest thing is I don't know how to sex them.
Sexing's easy.
Okay.
That I don't think is your biggest problem.
Okay.
Sexing's the easy bit. From my experience in this, you've got a couple of issues. Our feed, if it's 3 months old, it's no good. It has a shelf life. We use a certified organic feed, which maybe is the problem. But if I get feed that's a couple of months old, it's already shot. So maybe getting stuff shipped via New Zealand so that it's, yeah, I don't, the other thing would be
biosecurity. So the feed people, the farmers here used to get their feed from New Zealand. Biosecurity have now said it has to come from Australia.
Right.
So they won't allow it in from New Zealand.
The other thing would be to work with some market gardeners. So a lot of our chickens, that I think would be, from my point of view, getting day-olds, you could get them shipped from. Have you talked to Bond about day-olds?
Well, at the moment, that's where these ones have come from.
Yeah.
So they're the black Bond backyards.
Yeah, which are not dual purpose.
No.
They're marketed as dual purpose, but if you're going to grow them up and make roosted coq au vin or that sort of thing out of them, you're going to struggle. So getting unsexed eggs from those guys, a rooster is going to take 18 weeks to grow. You're going to have to feed it for 18 weeks to get it to table weight, and then only be able to recover $15, $25 maybe from something that, if I had a chicken on the property that I raised for 18 weeks, it would be 3.5 kilos and worth $75. Well, it'd be worth $85 because I would break it down and I would do all the sorts of things. So I think it would be challenging to use a breed like that. I would be looking at more of a dual purpose, like a leghorn. There's a white Sussex or one of the heritage breeds where the roosters are actually got a bit more weight to them. But in saying that, if you use a heritage breed chicken, you're going to have the beauty of the Australorps, which is the black Bond hybrid. Yeah. Is that they don't eat very much for the amount of eggs that they produce. So you go to a white Sussex and they're going to eat 3 times as much food and not give you 3 times as many eggs. They'll actually give you half the amount of eggs. So all of your feed conversions is going to be not that great. So that's one of your challenges. Sexing day olds is you can just YouTube it.
I have, yeah.
Yeah. And it hasn't worked, or you can't quite get it.
I haven't bred any yet because I haven't got any starter feed on the island. So I've got to wait till October for the next ship to come that'll actually have my order of feed.
Yeah. The other thing that you could do, is there any cropping on the island at all?
Not really. I mean, I've got a bit of land, and I've thought about growing some stuff myself. But I'm not a a big grower kind of thing, and I'm sort of, I don't have a lot of space.
No, and you actually probably won't have enough time. That's like,
well, that's the other thing.
Yeah. That's one thing with our business, is that we do one thing well, and then we work with other people who come in and are experts in their field as well. So I'm not someone who can grow feed. I'm not someone who can process chicken, which is, I have strengths, but that's been the biggest part of our business, is realizing that here are my strengths, and I need to actually work with people who can help me. I can't do everything. And farming is actually a big thing like that, is you really can't do everything. You have to find people to work with. Alternative methods of feed. So our neighbours are a hydroponic lettuce farm, and they often give us, truckloads of greenery, which the chickens love. So that would be something that you would have a high protein mineral supplement for your layers, and then maybe work with local market gardeners or local restaurants on feeding the chickens scraps, and having them, because in terms of like a regenerative farm, chickens are really good at converting waste into protein for the community. It's an amazing, they're like pigs. Chickens and pigs are, and for layers, broilers is different. Broilers, you upset their feed because they're this Lamborghini style breed. If you upset their protein requirements by a couple of percentage, then they'll actually, instead of being 1.87 kilos at week 9, they'll actually only be 1.4. Like, they'll lose that. Their rate of growth is exponential if you disrupt it. So if you do something bad at the start, you'll really feel it at the end. Whereas if you upset a layer, it will recover. So if you feed the layers only lettuce for 2 weeks, they'll be okay. Whereas if you feed a broiler lettuce for 2 weeks, it's not going to be okay. They're not as resilient. So layers are good like that. And I'd be looking at alternative sources of food. So things like muesli waste is another thing that we get locally. So market gardeners give us different bits and pieces. We work with a brewer as well. And they give us brewer's grain. And then we also work with a gin person. And we get all the spent gin, which sends all the animals alcoholic, like it's alcoholic, so they will get drunk. But it evaporates quickly. So it's the pigs. Yes, very funny. But looking at also alternative sources of food for those kind of, waste animals that turn waste into protein is, that's what I would be looking into. Is there anyone that processes, is there an abattoir on the island?
So I've spoken to one of the local butchers who has an abattoir, and he's interested. The other thing is I also have ducks, and I'm looking at the ducks for meat as well. They don't have pluckers and things like that. So that's what we're looking into, is whether I buy the equipment or they buy the equipment for the actual plucking and that sort of thing. So there's nobody on the island at current that kills chickens for commercial production. There's a lot of wild chickens on the island, and there's a lot of people who kill and eat for their own purposes, which we do as well. But there's no way I could set myself up as an abattoir and do it on that kind of scale. And like you said, you get other people to do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So we do kill for ourselves. But yeah, I'm not hand plucking all of my chickens for the market.
It's very different to take the life of something and then make something for your family. You know, we can do that with we shoot venison. We, you know, do lots of things for our family, but doing that commercially and doing that week on week, like if you've got a production model and you have to kill 30 chickens every week, and that's not part of the inner you that makes you a person, it can be really, because we, at the very start, we had to dry hire a local abattoir. We didn't have to, we could stop doing chickens. But at the very start of researching, we were told that it was staffed. And I was like, perfect, I just drop them off and pick them up and they're in a bag and it's all fine. On the first 2 weeks before we started, we went and checked it out and realised that actually we walked in and there was a son and a daughter, an 8 and a 10-year-old, and dad was in the hot room. You'll learn about a hot room. And then the mum was in, you know, the inviscerating cold room with the 2 kids, and the kids were chopping off the feet and mum was doing the inviscerating. Wow. And the girl was, you know, rinsing off. And it was like, where are all the staff? And they said, well, there aren't any. And that's like the realities of being a farmer, is that, especially at that scale, is that the buck stops with you. And if you have a production model that needs those 30 chickens, then it's got to be you getting up at 4 a.m. and putting them into the grate and taking them to the abattoir. So yeah, that would be something that I'd really look into. And maybe your dual purpose is a good idea. So ducks, great, because they're prolific layers and you can take the males away, have a breeding program, which would be perfect. So then you process all the males and they produce quite good, you have a good recovery. Ducks do really well in orchards as well. And, you know, they can work with other farmers. You can have your flock of ducks go and sort out a pest problem on someone else's property, which I think would be a beautiful relationship that you could set up. So that to me sounds like it's a little bit more dual purpose and a little bit more, than like a straight hatching. Yeah, spending lots of time doing hatching and stuff. I don't know whether that's the best use of your time.
No, that's a good point.
Was that helpful? Sorry. But
yeah, very helpful. Very helpful.
I think you could have just saved yourself a couple of years of effort here, Rebecca. It sounds like some good advice.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Ducks are really good on wineries and really good on, like, they're really good at keeping bugs down. So you could set up a movable, and we've looked at it with our chickens, is putting a coop in between rows of macadamia nuts and pecans and stuff to put down, you know, a layer of fertilizer in between, so that and you can actually have it so that the pen drags along. And there's a lot of those places have exact sizes, so you can get something that fits exactly, and then they will pay you to be the fertilizer. And then all of a sudden, you know, you've got something that was a waste product, but now is actually worth quite a lot to someone.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Just conscious of time here for Georgina, because she's got to go out and pluck some chickens, I think. But
I'm actually building an abattoir, so I'm having a meeting with the abattoir owners who, and that's a big part of it. Like, I don't want to run an abattoir, but I've found someone who does it as a hobby now, and it's something that he really enjoys doing. He, you know, it completes his circle. So I'm quite happy for him to run this abattoir because that's his skill set. So really want him to work, and then we'll try and get it built up around him. So finding the right people is big.
Yeah. Danny or Joy, do you have any questions, guys, while we got the opportunity, or are we good?
Hey, no, that was great. Thank you so much, Georgina. That was really interesting to listen to. I don't have any particular questions, but I was just jumping on because I think it was great that you did this.
Well, that's okay. I'm happy to answer any questions, especially, because I mean, we don't come from farming, so it's probably, I have a different perspective to anyone who's been a chicken farmer. I'd sort of, I don't like that term. It's sort of, no, I'm so, chicken is something that we have, but it's a byproduct of what we're actually trying to do, which is manage this land and do something amazing on this land. Is, that's the goal. The grass, the ground is the goal, and the health of the soil. And because if that's healthy, then I can grow lots of things. Like it will give me back 10 times more, whether that's chickens. And to put it into context, so we raise 1,350 chickens every 3 weeks. We process 2 pigs a week, so we've got 6 breeding sows. We have 30 cows and calves and their progeny. So we have maybe a herd of, which is tiny, but maybe 60 cows all up, Highlanders and different kind of breeds. And then we have 450 layers. So we rotate all of the animals, they all have a role and they all kind of link into one another, and produce, amazing things depending on what, this week we've got this kind of feed coming in, which is going to be a big thing for Beck, is we've got this feed coming in, right, well, that can go to the chickens, and, that will be this, and then, okay, we've got this other thing happening, okay. So it's all about opportunity, I guess, with us.
How big's your property?
Tiny. So we farm about 30 acres at home, but it's 40 acres all up. It's probably only 25 of usable paddocks, and then we also lease at the farm, and that's about 30 acres as well, so about 60 acres all up, and we turn over around about a ton of protein a week.
Wow.
Georgina, I want to just really acknowledge and congratulate you. What a great job you've done with this. I love your vision and your passion for it. And I've sort of watched, as a consumer, as I said, watched you grow with this, and I've seen it go from strength to strength. So congratulations. It's been amazing to watch it and be part of it. Just to enjoy the produce along the way. It's been great. So well done. I'm really glad you're doing it, because what I'm really conscious of as a consumer is that, we can buy your chicken, but no, other people in other regions don't have that privilege. So I think what you said is we need more like you doing this, and having viable models that you've just presented. You've just proven this out as a viable business model. You're making a living on it, is important for other farmers to follow suit. So, well done for leading the charge and paving the way, because, people everywhere deserve quality food, and we're lucky enough to get it around here. Hopefully, others will replicate. Maybe no pressure on you, Beck, but you're next, Beck.
It's not. You just got to go with what drives. You've got to find something that drives you on the inside, because you're not going to be able to, yesterday, for example, I was packing orders until 2 a.m. in the morning, and then I got in the cool truck at 7 and drove a full day to the chiller to do our deliveries. It's like, unless you've got drive and passion for the product, for the end product, bigger goal, whatever, you want to make a difference, you're not going to want to get up at that time in the morning. Just going to go, so unless you've got that inside you, it's sort of not worth it, I think. And I think, that's a big part of, anything. If you're going to do it well. And you seem like you've got the drive for it. I'm happy to answer more questions. We've done a lot of things the hard way. So
would you mind?
Yeah, your insights are great, and it's given me some good things to think about. Thank you so much.
Awesome. All right, we'll wrap it there, guys, because we got some other meetings to get to as well. But it's Georgina, thanks again. It's been great to have you on, and hopefully at some point we'll get us all together on the island. I haven't been there yet. I'm so keen to get to Norfolk and check out what you guys are doing. So
that sounds amazing.
Get a crew of us along. Yeah. Cool. Thanks again, Georgina. Thanks, Beck, Danny, and Joy for joining us. We'll put this recording on the on our little Facebook group. Actually, if you're okay, Georgina, I'll invite you to the Nourishing Norfolk Facebook group.
All right.
Watch everyone's progress along as we go. Awesome.
Sounds good.
Thank you.